Good Wednesday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Chris Arabsky. New today, state legislators and child care providers are speaking out at the Minnesota Capitol after a viral video from conservative YouTuber Nick Shirley claims to have exposed fraud at Minnesota daycare centers. It comes as federal child care payments to Minnesota are frozen, with that viral video being one of the reasons why. A post from the Deputy Secretary of Health and Human Services, or HHS, cites Shirley in saying Minnesota has, quote, allowed scammers and fake daycares to siphon millions of taxpayer dollars over the past decade, end quote. Governor Walz calling this Trump's long game. The Walz administration now having to respond to federal demands for audits. Plus, as of yesterday, there are new rules that all federal child care payments to states must first come with receipts or photo evidence before those payments are released. All this, of course, on top of Minnesota's funding freeze.
My office, ACF, provides Minnesota $185 million in child care funds each year. That money should be helping 19,000 American children, including toddlers and infants. Any dollar stolen by fraudsters is stolen from those children.
Again, there are no cases yet that we're aware of that have been convicted in court that show this fraud just yet. Also new this afternoon, workers and families who use the Nokomis Daycare Center, they're speaking out after they say their facility was vandalized earlier this week. The center's manager says he believes they were targeted because they are Somali-run daycare. Families say they want whoever's committing fraud in Minnesota to be brought to justice. But taking that anger out on daycare providers helps no one, they say.
Somali child care providers are being used in a political game. We are being hurt in the political game. The state is funding and prosecuting fraud, whether in childcare or other industries. The new surge in enforcement is causing trauma to our community entirely, and especially our precious children.
Right now, the Council on American Islamic Relations is calling for an investigation into the motive for that vandalism. The state of Minnesota has investigated daycare fraud in the past with mixed results. We tracked 4 investigations that resulted into no charges. Now, one state agency is blaming another. Lou Raguse has that exclusive.
These photos were taken in August 2022 during a search warrant executed by the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension inside a Minneapolis Somali-owned daycare where they expected to find proof of fraud. Sunshine Child Care Center was located in a building behind the storefront on Lake Street. According to BCA reports, Sunshine had received more than $9 million in taxpayer-funded child care assistance program money since it was first licensed to serve up to 48 children 11 years earlier. And a DHS investigator referred the case to the BCA because they suspected fraud. The initial tip claimed that the owner, Fausia Hassan, would only hire employees who had 5 or more children. This kind of allegation is known to investigators, where mothers will essentially watch their own children at a daycare and get paid with taxpayer money. But investigators here also claim to find evidence of overbilling. According to the police reports, the daycare claimed to serve twice as many kids as it actually did while being surveilled. Did your clients fudge the numbers and get reimbursements for more kids than they were actually caring for?
No. And if they had, they'd be really foolish to be doing this, right?
Attorney Jason Steck filed a lawsuit on behalf of Hassan and another daycare owner the BCA investigated at the same time, Abdi Kadar Muhammad. They both claim state investigators discriminated against them because they are Somali.
There's no indication that any other child care centers owned by any other group was targeted even for investigation.
KARE 11 has reviewed full BCA reports from the Sunshine Daycare investigation and 3 other Twin Cities Somali-owned daycares. All 4 of them were closed without filing charges. And in 3 out of the 4, the BCA partially pins the blame on DHS, the agency that first referred the cases, for not sharing needed documents with investigators. The agent writes, quote, DHS advised they would not provide any of the requested documents because they would be acting as an arm of the BCA.
Lou Raguse with important reporting there. The lawsuit filed by the 2 daycare owners is in federal court. Lawyers for the state have filed motions for the judge to dismiss it. That ruling has not come down yet. Developing right now, community leaders are urging Native American women to be on alert over reports that addicts are being promised treatment out of state that does not exist. The Minnesota Indian Women's Resource Center says it's unclear how many people are being transported, but they call this pattern alarming. It's similar to a scam in Arizona that was uncovered several years ago, costing taxpayers billions of dollars and leading to the deaths of many Native Americans. Reva Stewart helped expose that fraud when she saw white vans picking people up at nearby parks.
It's really frustrating because you're in this hamster wheel of how can we stop this?
As for Minnesota, officials say the only trusted medical providers are White Earth and the Native American Community Clinic, asking people to say something if they see something suspicious. KARE 11's been at the forefront of fraud in government programs. Our investigative reporters have exposed it and been reporting on it for years. It's all on KARE11.com for you to check out. It's under the Fraud Coverage tab. A judge has decided how much money Amy Bach, the mastermind behind the massive Feeding Our Future fraud scheme, will have to pay back. Bach is the former executive director of Feeding Our Future and was convicted of facilitating the theft of $240 million meant to feed children in need during the pandemic. Judge Nancy Brazel entered a money judgment for $5.2 million that Bach directly or indirectly received from the fraud. Bach's sentencing date has not been set yet. In less than 12 hours, a big new law is going into effect in Minnesota. Paid family leave. It's a crown jewel for Democrats and a headache for many business leaders. It'll allow most workers to take up to 20 weeks of paid leave for major life events or medical issues. Danny Spiewak has a closer look at what this means.
Nestled inside the St. Paul Airport, the restaurant Holman's Table has been serving customers since January 2018.
8 years, yeah, yep.
But when the calendar flips to 2026 this week, owner Troy Redding must navigate one of his biggest changes yet.
This one's pretty significant, yes.
Starting Thursday, almost all workers in Minnesota will be eligible to take 12 weeks of family leave, 12 weeks of medical leave, or 20 weeks for a combination of both. Funded by a payroll tax, the program covers employers of all sizes, whether they have thousands of workers or just 50, like Holman's Table.
We're a small, independent business, and with all legislation being lumped in with large companies, our means are different.
But the Walz administration says the new law will expand paid leave to hundreds of thousands of Minnesota workers who didn't previously have these benefits through their jobs.
We want to make sure this program is very accessible and easy to use for workers.
After a soft launch in late November, Department of Employment and Economic Development Commissioner Matt Varilek says applications for 2026 leave are now open for everyone.
This is a very exciting development for us, something we've been building towards for a long time.
The program covers a range of groups, including new parents, people caring for sick relatives, or those who need medical treatment themselves. Supporters of the policy include labor groups, the AARP, and the Children's Defense Fund.
Paid family and medical leave will help ensure that parents and caregivers are able to be present for these moments.
However, business groups such as the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce have called the paid leave program a one-size-fits-all mandate.
I think there should be more flexibility.
At Holman's Table, Troy Redding says he supports his employees having some form of paid leave.
But having it being a government entity, I struggle with that.
Danny Spiewak reporting there. If you plan to go out for New Year's Eve, Metro Transit wants to help you get home safely. They're providing free rides starting at 6 p.m. tonight. Just make sure you plan accordingly. On the Blue Line, the final northbound trip will leave Mall of America Station at 12:10 a.m. and the last southbound trips will leave Target Field Station at 12:30 and 1:05 a.m. Over on the Green Line, the final eastbound trips leave Target Field Station at 12:35 and 1:30, while the last westbound trips leave Union Depot Station at 12:30. Have a good time, everyone. Everyone knows the biggest New Year's party is happening in Times Square in New York City. 1 million people expected to bring in the new year in 2026. That's amazing. 1 million people packed into that area. I'm told they can't leave. And you know what that means? Diapers. Emily Aikid is in Times Square with a preview.
Well, hello from Times Square, where the NYPD is out in full force monitoring the crossroads of the world, as some 1 million people are expected to pack into Times Square to witness the ball drop just behind me. And it's an event that the city prepares for all year long. And this year there will be even more officers out patrolling the crowd and making sure the celebrations go smoothly and safely. In addition to the officers, there will be heavily armored tactical units, drones, dogs, eyes on the ground and in the sky. You may hear the whir of helicopters overhead. The NYPD says there's no specific credible threat to this year's New Year's Eve celebrations, but the department here and in major cities across the country acting with a lot of vigilance, especially just 1 year out from the awful terror attack in New Orleans. The other thing that officials are closely watching this year, the weather. Millions of people from Minnesota to Maine are facing frigid, dropping temperatures. Out west in California, revelers could see a downpour for the first time during the Rose Parade in Pasadena, California in some 20 years. I'll tell you, it's raining something different in New York City tonight. Confetti, which I just learned is in the shape of a square in honor of Times Square. Back to you.
Thank you, Emily. Stick with us. We got more news and weather coming up after the break.